It's something that I know that'll motivate me.
There is a back-to-back Super Bowl champion.
Promise you next year we'll go for that three-peat. First time in NFL history, we doing it.
Saquon's been able to take us to the next level.
Saquon Barkley, you're going to have to deal with the Chiefs.
All we've been through, even this moment right here.
Rain in Philadelphia Friday, so the Eagles practice indoors as they get ready for Super Bowl 59. Philly's running game will probably continue to be a big part of their attack against the Chiefs. They're averaging 228 yards per game on the ground this postseason with 10 rushing touchdowns in 3 games. But there's still some injury concerns up front. Here's Sal Paolantonio.
Preparing for Super Bowl 59, the Philadelphia Eagles this week spent the week installing the offense to go against Steve Spagnuolo, 3-time Super Bowl champion, and the Kansas City Chiefs defense. The number one thing is finding out where those diabolical blitzes will be coming on 3rd and 4th down, especially in the 3rd and 4th quarter in the high leverage situations of the football game. Here's Jalen Hurts talking about Steve Spagnuolo and what to expect.
He's been great. Very high success rate in what they do. Great players, great defensive back group. Obviously Chris Jones and up front. And so it'll be a great challenge. It'll be another great challenge for us.
The big issue for the Eagles offensive line going into this game is the health of Pro Bowl guard Landon Dickerson. Did not practice on Friday with a knee injury. And Pro Bowl center Cam Jurgens also did not practice with a back injury. It's something to monitor throughout the weekend before the Eagles depart for New Orleans on Sunday, as well as into next week as they get ready for Super Bowl 59 against the Chiefs. With the Eagles, Sal Paolantonio, ESPN.
Coming up,
The 4th team to appear in 3 consecutive Super Bowls and trying to become the first team to win all 3. Kansas City would be the 3rd team in NFL history to win 3 straight championships, though. Packers did it from 29 to 31 and from 65 to 67 in the pre-Super Bowl era. Here's Michelle Steele with more on how the Chiefs are getting locked in.
when you go to the Super Bowl, as much as the Chiefs have, 5 of the last 6 to be exact, you get to develop a Super Bowl routine. That is what Andy Reid is calling it. And they are in their Super Bowl routine for the first week of preparation ahead of leaving for New Orleans this weekend. Now, that means treating it almost like a game week where they would play on Sunday, putting in the game plan, doing the install, and practicing in the Chiefs indoor facility. Guys are in the building Friday, putting in some work. One big positive, the health of this team. Injuries simply do not appear to be a concern at this stage. Now, as for the vibes, I know that my friend Sal Pal was saying that the Eagles are embracing the words unfinished business to refer to the attitude around the Eagles. The 2 words I would use for KC, amped up. They are ready to get to New Orleans.
All right, we know what you want to know, at least based on what guys keep asking me on the golf course. The Chiefs are currently a 1.5-point favorite over the Eagles, according to ESPN Bet. Kansas City covered the spread in just 7 of their 17 regular season games. But in 4 Super Bowl appearances with Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs.
Listen, it's kind of tricky. Because obviously we look at certain things, but I'm going to say a Super Bowl appearance. That's what I'm going to go with, because especially in this day and age with Lamar Jackson potentially en route to capturing his 3rd league MVP, it doesn't mean that much to us anymore because he's not playing in the biggest game that counts. And so when you look at a Super Bowl appearance, you've won your conference. You're 60 minutes away from a Super Bowl championship. And I think when you look at it from that vantage point, it's not to diminish the league MVP by any stretch of the imagination. But in the case of Lamar Jackson, for example, as we sit here today, we know how great he is. We know how phenomenal he is. We know that he's worthy of MVP consideration, if not achievement. But nevertheless, it doesn't matter. It pales in comparison to a championship. We've got a former league MVP right here on the set right now in Cam. I ask you, Cam, if you could give back that league MVP for a Super Bowl championship, would you do it?
Nope.
Oh.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Because you have to ask it through this lens. That was a very journalistic viewpoint or vantage point or response, Stephen A. I'll ask you this question, and just to pose this thought: what's more important, impact or championships? You look at a guy like Allen Iverson, or you stood up on the table and blah 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 blah. Everybody's not going to be Michael Jordan. Everybody's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. Everybody's not going to be these individuals who have the luxury of saying, hey, I not only dominated this sport, but I also have championships to back it. Like, let me remind you, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Respectfully, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. So, yes, when you look at those guys and you say, okay, what's more important? Would you have preferred to win a Super Bowl? I think that's the humble approach. But if we're being honest, the impact of you holding yourself accountable to say everybody has a responsibility to do. And you can say as an MVP award winner or an All-American, you've held yourself or you've held your end of the bargain down. And that's what it really comes down to for me. I know that's not the popular pick. I'm trying to be popularized. But my take is I'm taking individual success because I did my job. Football is not about one guy trying to do 11 jobs. Mm-hmm. It's 11 guys doing one job.
I respect everything that you're saying. It sounds like what you're saying is you think that it would be more impressive the MVP. I think it would be impressive if the MVP is Lamar because we've only had a handful that have won 3, and I don't think any of them will won 3 by the time they were 27 years old. Wildly impressive. But ultimately, you guys, Jalen Hurts has now had 2 Super Bowl appearances before age 27 years old. There's only a handful of quarterbacks that have ever done that. In fact, the other ones that have done that before were either Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers. That is wildly impressive to me, especially when you consider that this guy, how many times have we said with the success of quarterbacks that it is contingent on consistency at the coordinator position? We talked about that with RG3 and why he never ended up living up to that potential, right? We've talked about that time and time again. People seem to forget that Jalen Hurts has had a cycle of coordinators as well, right? This is a guy who we have tried to minimize his contributions as much as possible. I give you that. I still don't necessarily have him in my top 5 just in terms of arm talent, but what he does incredibly well. But ultimately, when we talk about these guys he's trying to join, the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens, what does he have over them? He has 2 Super Bowl appearances in the last 3 years alone. To me, that is more impressive, whether he wins or not, than winning another MVP, simply because you put your team in a position and did what you had to do to get them there to compete for the ultimate prize. The ultimate prize to you may have been the MVP. I think typically the ultimate prize would be winning a championship.
Hai này. Ba này.